Yo, JD here, Limitless, and as you can see, we still remain on F1 at 2019 because we are back with a new F1 Esports race footage. And you can see I'm not taking part in this. It is the one and only Frederik Rasmussen, who once again has very kindly lent me his footage, and we're going to be looking at his fastest qualifying lap and the full race. And trust me, this is a very, very good race to watch. And if you want to learn something, you can one by watching my videos and other people's videos as well. But this guy, his job is just to be an absolute monster in this game, and he does it very, very well. You see, his banker lap was a pretty good one, a 16.3, which is a pretty decent time in itself. And then coming across for his second one, got purple in this middle sector and improves to 16.1, and you can see no reaction again, just super chilled. But now we're on board for his final lap in this qualifying session here. So let's go through this, going through the last corner, making sure you get the DRS as early as you can. And going into this first corner, we're going to be looking to the left hand side of the track, and as he always does, using all the track gears, so just between the two last boards, going up into here, fifth gear, and then almost goes flat out. He does a little lift, but I think he could have actually gone flat out for there. Stay nice and tight to the right. All the drivers did that. They're going to using all the track again, fourth gear, then going up into fifth gear just to minimize the wheel spin, and then using all the track. Going into this one, has a slight lock up, but still manages to rotate the car and gets a very, very nice exit into his left-hander. A very, very difficult one. Have to hook the car on the inside and on the outside. Again, a right-hander, a very horrible blind right-hander. Has a little bit of a squiggle, but manages to get through it unscathed. And this corner, he trail brakes so well. Going to it, then third gear, and just the traction, he just rocket launches off this corner, then going into the right-hander, down to third, then back into fourth, almost straight away, up into fifth as the curb finishes. That's where he goes down to fourth gear, and then into this, he uses all the track once again, second gear, third gear, gets a tiny bit of oversteer on the exit, and flat out for his right-hander on the DRS, and going across the line. What lap time is this going to be? It is a 16.0 that puts him on provisional pole position. And you can see there, as he just said, he doesn't have time for another lap. But that was enough to put him P2, splitting the two Alfa Romeos. And look at the times. Like a 16.3 is P14. And if you zoom in there, David Teniza, you can see a 16.2, P11. And Brendan Lee is not even in the top 14, unless I've missed him here. It just shows how competitive this series is, and I really do feel that it's probably the most competitive racing series there is right now. It's just absolutely insane. So now on the grid, we've got 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights against Barry, Speed Barry, and you can see he's just got an awesome start, and the traction he has just got released off here. He's going side by side going into his first corner. Let's see who can blink first. And I think if Danny is trying to go round the outside of him. He tries to almost get in contact with him. He manages to maintain the position into P2 here. And just the reactions he had on the wheel. Like, it's weird looking at his webcam. I can promise you that he is using a wheel. I think he's using a SimCube 2 racing wheel, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, it looks like he's not even... It looks like he's just turning his head. He's not even moving his hands that fast. But the reaction, just the control I think that Rasmussen has is just nothing like I've seen, to be honest. It is just, I can't praise the guy enough. It is absolutely nuts. But the most impressive thing is his braking. As you look into here, goes on the brakes first, and like we said at Australia when he analysed that footage, I would say he is probably the best driver, and I don't think many would disagree, on brakes and on traction as well. And the way he brakes is something that someone actually pointed out to me when I uploaded the Australia video of his footage. Frederik normally has played iRacing. He's a very big iRacing player. He doesn't play it anymore.
I don't think he's doing it anymore.
He plays this full time, but I think that braking style really comes from driving like slower cars, like GT cars or Porsches, where you really have to go on the brakes hard first and then go down the gears slowly. And I think it is translated as he almost loses the car there. Talking about control, he really had to regain control there. But I think that braking style has no, he's definitely transferred it over to this, which shows you can play other games and be really good in this. But I think it really helps as well. It really helps with just stability and braking later and stuff as well. It stops him from always oversteering. He is just something else on the brakes. It is just, it looks easy, but I promise you, it really is not easy. And right now, he's got a bit of a task on his hands because Speed Barry, or Barry Bromond, again, probably said that horribly wrong, is very, very quick around here. I know for a fact that this is probably one of his best tracks. And no, he's got Rasmussen behind you, which is someone you probably cannot ever shake off. I just can't see anyone putting a gap on this guy and go through a chicane, a very awkward chicane. Again, I think there's a lot of controversy before this race about the track limits and stuff like that as well. But in these races, there are no steward panels, and to be honest, I think it's really down to the game that what actually allows it. But if there were stewards, I'm pretty sure they would be saying not to use any advantage going through here. But in these races, it's not quite the actual thing, although people are treating it like the actual thing. So pretty much people are free to do as they like. But I don't think that is going to stop Frederik, no matter what. I think he is just too good. That I just can't, again, see anyone just being able to outpace him. He really doesn't. And I really wanted to upload his China footage, which he actually did take down shortly after that race. Because I've said if there's one weakness in Rasmussen, and I'm sure he doesn't mind me saying this, and it might even help him, which is a scary thing because I don't really want him to get too much better than he is now, because I don't think it'd be that entertaining. I think sometimes he can definitely be more aggressive instead of just sitting behind people. I feel he has the pace to really attack people a lot more, and I think perhaps the endurance mindset of being in iRacing and those games has probably really sunk into him. But now he's actually is starting to attack Barry here, and he has got a very, very good run into turn one. Barry goes super defensive. He goes round the outside of him and going into turn one. He gets the move done. And exactly what I was saying here, this is the first time I've watched it back from his footage, and I think it's a commentator's curse, because I was telling him to be more aggressive, and that's exactly what he's done. He's actually taken the initiative and now has taken the lead. So now let's see how fast he really, really is. Let's see if he can even put away, because I think there's 2 DRS zones around this track. So this game is notorious for being very easy to stick with people, but I think if someone could break that mold, it is definitely Rasmussen. And you can see always put it into hide, rarely puts it into overtake. And I notice as well with the fuel, he never puts it in lead, he always keeps it in standard. And for me personally, when I do my races, I always put it in lean, not really for the better traction, but just for keeping my engine temps low, and just the fuel in general. I think it's always a good thing to have extra fuel, because ERS is so powerful. If you expend your ERS, you really want to be doing it. But now, I think you can see now he is actually really trying to get a gap, and he's got about a 6/10 gap to Barry behind here, or not Barry, Alvaro, because Barry has actually pitted, so he's going to go for the overcut. So now he is really actually going to have to push here, and let's see, because I think the undercut around most circuits is definitely a real thing. Going to here, never puts it in lean, still keeping it in standard, and he's got about almost 50% of his ERS left. And he's got Alvaro Caraton and Lucas Blakey behind, who I have to say Alvaro Caraton has been really impressing me recently. I think he's really starting to solidify that he is a top 5 driver in this series. And I think the Lucas Blakey as well, I think he's been getting quite a lot of top 6s. And even in esports, he had, I think, a couple, maybe even 2 second places in the esports series last year. So these drivers are really starting to develop. And that's the beautiful thing about this series, is that a lot of these drivers have been in it for about 3 seasons now. And everyone's getting used to the equipment, everyone's getting used to the pressure, the practice, of the sacrifices of what it actually takes. And I think now you're really starting to see everyone hit their max potential. As now Rasmussen now enters the pits at the end of lap 5, and let's see if he has managed to achieve the overcut, spot on the braking point very nicely, and I think a few people will continue. Marcel Kiefer, the race winner from last week, just shows of how competitive this is. He dominated it at Brazil. And Brendan Lee, he didn't dominate, but he won at China. And those guys are struggling to get into the points. And you know how fast those guys are. So this just shows one small error can make the biggest difference. You can see coming out of the pits, he has somehow made the overcut work. And no, tyre wear is not that important in 25% races. Now, if you have a lap fresher tyres, it really isn't going to make a huge difference at all, because the distances are so short and strategy is not really a factor. But it always helps. And normally an undercut, as I said, is a big thing, and he's just managed to make the overcut work. And I don't think Barry had any traffic or anything at all. So now this is going to be a very big task for the Alfa Romeo. And as I said, we are going to stay on board for this entire race, because I think, again, it's really important to see at the absolute peak of performance of what it looks like, the pressure as well. I've gone over that quite a lot of times. It's not about the speed of these drivers. I think all these drivers, even to the person who qualifies last in each race, has the ability to get on the podium or has the ability to get the top 3 in qualifying. I have no doubt. I'm pretty sure everyone's PB is probably going to be within max 0.2 of each other. But it's about the person who can deliver it on the day. That is the difference. That's what separates the very good drivers to the best drivers, is about coping with that pressure and just the mental aspect of it. And I think looking at likes of Rasmussen, Beresne, Lee, Tunisia, all those kind of drivers, they show that they can cope with the pressure extremely well. And you can just see he is just not phased. It looks like he's just going for a Sunday drive, which he is right now, because this was done on a Sunday, but it just looks like he's just so relaxed. But he does say that he does panic on the inside and he is feeling it, which I can believe, because I think we are all human, and if you're in this position, of course you're going to get nervous. But I think, again, something that separates other people is just how you use that. Do you let it crumble you, or do you let it take over and you use it in your favour? And I think that is definitely what the best drivers do here. But you can see, stay on board here, it's absolutely nuts at just how consistent these drivers are, all these drivers are, and just how much you have to push all the time. If you just relax for 1 second, especially in a 25% race, it's game over. And you can see he's set the fastest lap of a race of a 19.1, but almost 8 attempts cleared now. And let's see how he actually tackles this track. So going into here, the brake marker board has actually been taken away on the left hand side, so I'm pretty sure he's using the reference on the right. Going through this corner, let's see if he goes flat out, almost flat out, just a dab on the throttle and then back on it again. Stay nice and tight here, and I think the gear selection is going to be pretty similar to what he did in qualifying. You can see short shifting to 5th gear, and that purely just minimises the traction. Going into this corner, 2nd gear, 1st gear for the extra rotation, as he likes to do all the time, I've seen as well, but keeps it in high gear and really turns down the ERS pretty early. But once again, really likes to use fuel, I've noticed, but I can't say I really blame him, because in these races the engine doesn't really get damaged too much and puts it back into standard. So I've never seen him ever pull it in lean. I think only in wet conditions I've actually seen him do this in. And this track is pretty difficult to overtake unless you make a really big error coming off this final chicane. It's going to be a very difficult task. And you can see, using all the track once again, as I've described his driving style and many of these guys' driving styles, it's pretty much like them driving on scale electrics. They are just hitting the same point every single lap, and you can see a pretty consistent lap time here. I think that was within the 10th, as his teammate then puts in the fastest lap, and you can see his teammate, I think, is in about 9th place here, and you can't quite see the mini-map because his webcam was in the way, but everyone is so close together, and with a DRS train in this game, it's just impossible to overtake. No one is making any mistakes, like in Brazil as well. No one was making any mistakes, and I've had a lot of questions asked of myself recently, because I've been driving pretty well in my last few league races, and I think that has helped by watching people like Rasmussen and just other people, even if I'm going quicker than them. I think picking up little things how people drive, like his braking, his ERS use and everything like that. If you put that into your own game, you will find you will just make those small improvements, those tiny details that will really add up over time. And a lot of people have also said to me, like, why am I not doing this? Why am I not doing esports? And the simple answer is that I just wouldn't have the time to do it. And if I wanted to be at this level, which would be pretty difficult to do, I feel personally that I could compete in this. I'm not saying I'd win races or anything like that, but I feel I could definitely compete in this. And no, I have competed in this. I think I had 5th in my first race I ever did in F1 Esports, and beat Rasmussen and Berezne on those races and stuff as well. But I feel it would just take, it's a pretty much a life commitment, a complete day-to-day commitment. You have to be playing as pretty much 9 to 5, at least a few multiple hours per day, if you want to be driving at this kind of level. No, you can't just jump on a day before or a couple of hours before and expect to be at this level. Because Rasmussen, looking at his Twitch, his stream, he was streaming hot laps a week before this race. So that's how long he was preparing for this. And I'm pretty sure he probably prepared in wet conditions and everything as well. Like every strategy or every setup combination was probably tested in that time. And having been an F1 esports coach myself, I know how much time dedication there is in it, and the amount of pressure. It takes over your life pretty much. And I really hope with the rise of F1 esports that drivers will be rewarded and valued accordingly, because they really do need to be valued as athletes. They really do. But with myself, going back to that, yes, I feel I could be at this level and compete, but right now I feel I'm a pretty good driver myself. But compared to the very top guys here, I feel I'd be able to stay with them, but just the consistency and just the raw lap time that they would probably be able to produce is something I'd have to work very hard towards. So I feel it's possible, and there's probably a lot of people, there's hundreds of people who have the ability to go into something like this, but it's just the dedication, it is just the time, dedication, discipline, and it's just not about the talent as well. You've got to have the composure, and you've got to have the mentality. And he has certainly proven that here, because he is almost out of the DRS zone. You can see the braking again. I just can't get over that, of just how he goes on the brakes for so long and then is just so calm in his downshifts. I cannot express how difficult that is. And going through here, this is the corner I love to see as well. Goes swooping out to the right and to the left, and he's just I don't know, it's just like he's dancing through the corners. It's just got such a smooth rhythm to it. And I feel my driving style is quite smooth and stuff as well. And I've been watching him quite a lot, and everyone can improve. It doesn't matter how good you are. As I said before, you can take little details from other people, even if they're not faster than you, but if they do something that is very good and you can see they do it well, then you could just add that into your own style and make it work. Because there is no one style on this game that works. Because you've got the style of Rasmussen, but then you've got the style of probably Berezne and Tunisia, who pretty much have the opposite driving styles to Rasmussen. Same with Jarno Otmir. He's very erratic with the steering wheel, very aggressive with the downshifts. I feel he downshifts before he even starts braking. It's complete opposite to what Rasmussen does, yet they can still achieve the same time. So there is no one size boot that fits all, to say. You've got to figure out your own style, and then you've just got to do what feels comfortable, what is natural to you, because it's just going to be completely different for everyone else. But you can see going through here, very similar to Australia, he is just completely in the zone, and unless he makes a huge mistake, it's going to be impossible for Barry to actually get past him. And Rasmussen's got a lap pressure tyres, which is always a good thing, and I think he is now actually out of the DRS zone. So let's see, he might have just still got it in the detection window, but let's see as Donoso sets the fastest lap, because I think he's put on the option tyres now. He was on a different strategy, and Donoso I think he was runner-up in 2017, and he's outside the points now, and he's still from first to last, all these drivers are absolute professionals, and they are just so good at this game. It is absolutely insane. But going through here now, I don't know if Barry is still in the DRS zone, and I don't think Rasmussen has even got a warning as well so far in this race. To come through here now, that's very easy to get a warning coming up the exit of that corner. Let's see what the gap is going to be. Going through into here, and he's just about got back in the DRS zone, so I think he must have had DRS going down that main straight here. But you can see again, Rasmussen, the only time I saw him going to overtake was like when he was doing the in-lap, trying to get the overcut. But apart from that, he uses high all the time, goes up to high, always, and now he's putting it into hot lap, just saying that, and now he's probably going into overtake. You can see what's the gap is going to be. So again, same as it was on last lap, just trying to get that ultimate traction and try and break his DRS. Now he puts it down, leaves it in rich as well, because I think he really wants to get out of this DRS zone as quick as he possibly can. But I know Barry is very, very good, especially in this last sector. And now he looks like he's starting to push a little bit now. Got to watch that fuel though, and he's still hovering around 40%. And yeah, it really is a joy to watch. So just the rhythm that he is having around this track. I think I've done 3 videos and they have all been Red Bull so far. So hopefully someone else who is going to fight for a win is going to send me one of their videos, because I would really like to commentate potentially on a different team. So if anyone is out there, I know a few drivers did approach me with some individual footage, but please, if you really want me to review your footage or talk about it, then absolutely throw it in and I'll try and incorporate it in future videos as well. But going through this last sector, exactly the same line as he's doing before, a little bit tighter that time actually, in fact. And that hairpin, that chicane is a very, very difficult one. And coming to main straight, let's see if he is out the DRS zone again. You can see very consistent at that time, and no, he's not. So Barry's definitely going to have. Nicholas Longley is doing very well in P3 in the Renault with his new team, who used to be in Red Bull, and I think he had P2 at Monza in his one and only race last year. So I know he's an incredibly good talent as well. Like I see, I think Rasmussen is starting to push definitely a little bit more now, but with the DRS, it's just so hard to just get out here. And again, I just can't stop saying it. It's just effortless in his driving. He makes it look so easy, but if you try and do these lap times, obviously you need a good setup for a start. But even if you did have the same setup as this guy, I can promise you, you might be able to get quite close to a lap time on some laps, but to be that consistent, as he's actually going faster now as well, is a very, very difficult thing. Which leads me to say again, I think having a background of competing in iRacing at a world championship level, where the races are very, very long, the competition is arguably as difficult as this, if not even harder back in the day. I think that has really benefited him from this in going into this series. I think that has really made him quite mentally quite tough, and that is the reason why he's brought this consistency, and the driving style works very well on this game. However, with F1 2020 and playing it myself, it is quite different to this game. So it'll be interesting to see if the skills are transferable, which they usually are in the F1 titles. You normally see the same people be quick all the time in each game. But it'll be interesting to see if there is potentially a new pecking order on the next game. I'm very excited to see what the esport times or what the esport drivers can do. And I'd love to be involved with them as much as possible as well. But coming into this penultimate lap, into the last sector on lap 16, the gap has pretty much stayed the same, and pretty much a repeat of Australia, apart from Rasmussen not being able to get out of the DRS zone of Barry. He is just hit the same point of track every single time and just hasn't made any mistakes at all, has not made any mistakes. He's got plenty of fuel and ERS now. Be interested to see if he uses it on this last lap. Goes into overtake now, and looking behind, he can't get out of that DRS zone. But unless he makes a huge mistake on this last lap, I cannot see anything else but a W for him on the scoreboard. And going through into his first sector again, I feel he probably could go flat out, going through into minimising the distance of the track once again, going into his first sector within a tenth of his best lap. And the gap has pretty much been the same, although Longley in P3 is actually starting to have a battle with Daniel Beresne for that position, which is why that gap has opened up. But Bari, you have to say he has done a fantastic job as well, getting the pole position and sticking with Rasmussen, which is probably the hardest thing to do on F1 2019 right now if you're a driver, is very, very impressive from him as well. And I probably know how nervous he's going to be. This is his first proper esports race as well. It's a very different thing from a league race, when you feel like there's a lot on the line as well. But coming through this final chicane now, it has been an absolute masterclass once again from Frederik Rasmussen. If I was going across the line, I'd be pumping my fist, but you can see chilled as anything. Just a super, super cool guy. He did exactly the same thing as he did in Australia. Just so chilled. GG to him. That was really, really something special to watch, actually. In fact, the consistency was just nuts. But well done to Rasmussen. Once again, I really appreciate you allowing me to use this footage. I hope you guys have actually enjoyed this. You have learned something as well. Thank you so much for the support on my own videos. It really has been a pleasure recently. And I will catch you very soon. Peace.